Ever since the first humans learned they could get others to do something by threat of force, fascism has been a force in life. The original coercive powers were the largest, most powerful males of primitive tribes throughout the world. Then specific tribes themselves, then entire races or classes. For the majority of history, various small groups of people have controlled entire populations with the threat of force or death. Leaders of these groups have been called different names throughout history: chieftain, king, Tsar, or Führer. But, regardless of the nomenclature, all of these leaders had one thing in common: absolute control over their population. An alternative concept to this coercive power was born in ancient Greece, however, and got its legs, as it were, in the philosophy of the Enlightenment, which spawned its firstborn child, the United States of America, the greatest experiment in the history of the world. The hypothesis: a people left to rule themselves will be the most prosperous on earth. For a while, the experiment was a smashing success. Most of the population lived in a productive, self-governing manner for 140 years, despite some glaring initial flaws, such as African slavery and incomplete suffrage. But the coercive powers would not just let well enough alone. They challenged the liberal ideas of the founders throughout the history of the country, albeit with little success, until the early 20th century when, ironically, the utopical ideal of America was finally being realized by every American. In the fateful year of 1913, Congress ratified the 16th Amendment to the Constitution, which granted the federal government the authority to tax income, and Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act, which put into place a central bank with unprecedented power to control the economy. The coercive powers in America were clever as well. Whereas similar leaders in Europe and Asia were overt about their displays of power, using bright red armbands, American fascists preferred to infuse their red into more fashionable accessories, such as neckties. And their policies were more covert, as well. They knew that the American public was not going to accept a heavy-handed coercive power dictating their lives. So they started a diabolical campaign. Can you imagine how the coercive powers in America managed to introduce ever-increasing taxation and control over a decidedly liberty-minded population? The coercive powers introduced their brand of fascism by making the people want it. They seized crisis after crisis in order to scare people into welcoming the controlling security of the federal government, and they did so in every aspect of life: financial markets, welfare, housing, healthcare, and every other realm that the government has invaded since 1913. In each instance, the daft governmental programs, some good-natured, others not, led to massive unintended problems and hardship. The resulting crises inevitably led to the citizenry asking for a more controlling government and, consequently, less individual freedom. Government programs designed to eliminate poverty, through direct assistance to the poor, only encouraged abuse of the system and exacerbated the problem. Programs developed to increase home ownership simply drove up the cost of housing, making it more difficult to own a home. That was, until the housing bubble burst and caused a tsunami throughout the economy. Similarities can be seen in the healthcare system, in which government forced insurance companies to provide coverage for everyone despite their need. These mandates, accompanied with restrictions on competition between health insurance companies and removal of individual choice throughout the system, drove up the costs of healthcare in the United States to outrageous levels, forcing some people to lose their coverage altogether. Government intervention simply does not work. As history has clearly shown us time and time again, government has forced good intentions on the people, which have continually led to unintended negative results. It is shocking, but people haven't realized the point that making universal prosperity a right is the surest way to universal poverty. When crises like financial depressions, widespread poverty, or runaway costs shock the system, the people start to panic. And who is always there to fix the problems? Why, it is government, of course, the same organization that caused the problems. What's more is that they offer the same irrational solutions in order to fix the problems that produced the problems in the first place. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. The result is an endless spiral of government intrusion into the daily lives of individuals and the exact opposite of what the government intrusion was intended to solve. Only in government can an organization completely and utterly fail at what they were tasked to do, and then get a raise.